God's gonna set the blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans back in order. Read. Before thine eyes. Before the whole world. Ezekiel 37:10. In regards to the marches and the show of force. Meaning what? We are not coming out there strapped up. Our weapons are not carnal. Right. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. You know what we gotta do? We gotta be willing to lay down our lives for Christ. Because guess what? Ain't that what he did for us? Right. And not the whole world. No, for you and me, bro. Right. Christ literally died for you and me, right, the Israelites, so we can have life. Solutions, read it.
Romans chapter 9 and verse 4.
Start at 2.
Romans chapter 9 and verse 2. Read. That I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ, for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh.
He's telling you his brother was according to the flesh. He's not. Let's see what he's talking about according to the flesh.
Who are Israelites?
So it ain't no such thing as a spiritual Israelite. The Israelites are those from the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So what we're doing is we're going to the community where our people at, and we're telling our people we got to come back. But think about this. A few years back, somebody named Erica did a 1,000,000-man march, right? 1,000,000 of us went out there and marched. What came out of that? We did it. I think he did it twice. But what came out of it? Nothing, because our people gathered together on the different beliefs.
What our people let them know, symbolism.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to show you. That had nothing to do with them. Even as that 1,000,000-man march was going on, they were still calling themselves African American. They were still following the ways, they were still eating pork. They were still breaking all the laws of the Most High God. But it was 1,000,000 men out there. What we're telling our people is to gather together as Israelites under the laws of the Most High God. And that's the one thing we've been missing in every rise we've ever had as a people. Martin Luther King, he had people to gather together, but they didn't gather up under God's laws. Malcolm X had people to gather together. They didn't gather under God's laws. The one thing we've never tried is to gather under God's laws, because God actually told us what the end goal is going to be. He gave us what's going to happen. So it's actually good that you ask those questions. Those are good questions. Why don't we gather together, or why don't we come together? Because we don't follow God's laws. Give me that in Isaiah chapter 30, verse 8.
Not only why do we gather together, but how can your organization, your group, you know what I'm saying, before they, let's say, convert into a Hebrew Israelite, how can you install this discipline, the vocal speak, like things that are missing in the black community that will help you just be better men before Israelites?
I'm gonna show you what changes it. Give me that Psalm chapter 19, verse 7. Let me show you. That's a great question.
The book.
What's going on, bro? All right. So I heard you say, I want to make sure I'm with you. You said to be a better man before an Israelite. That's what you said.
I know, because the purpose of any organization is to get people involved and to get people joining. You know what I'm saying? Before they join, you know what I'm saying? Because I think the structure of who you guys are is amazing, phenomenal, just like the Nation of Islam. You know what I'm saying? But how can you, do you think there's a way for you guys to come to schools and the communities and first teach kids how to speak up? Speak for what they believe in, but not just speak up for what they believe in, but talk in a tone like this right here make people nervous. You know what I'm saying? And we as a people do not do this. I'm with little kids every day and they don't look you in the eyes. You know what I'm saying? They don't stand up straight. They don't speak. You know what I'm saying? To where their voice touches every corner of the room. They don't, you know what I'm saying? They don't know how to stand in a line together and march with something and say something in unison. I'm saying, as the Hebrew Israelites, before you can get people like 7, 6, 7, 8-year-olds to convert to being saying I'm a Hebrew Israelite, but first just installing that structure in the front. You think that will help them just as much as converting to being a Hebrew Israelite?
Okay.
So not the purpose of saying, hey, join me, but the purpose of just let me give you the structure. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Give me First Corinthians with the order. I'm gonna show you where the order and the discipline comes from and how we. I understand. I'm gonna make it quick. And you talked about converting. All right, real quick. Was that 1 Corinthians 14, right?
Yes, sir.
30, 33, 34.
And I used to work with
30 what?
1 Corinthians 14,
I use the word conversion. That might not be right because people who believe who you originally are.
Yeah, give me 40. Thank you. Right, watch this.
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 14 and verse 40.
So talking about the order that you mentioned, the order and the discipline, watch this.
Let all things be done decently and in order.
Right, all things got to be done decently in order because of who we are. Right. It's not something we could give to somebody. For example, Christ was not sent for everybody. That's the thing about it. That's one thing that our people have misunderstood for centuries. Mainly in the last 400 years when we got dropped off over here, serving our captivity. Right. Matthew 15 and 24. I'm answering your question about how to be a man. But what you're going to realize, you won't know how to be a man until you realize your true nationality. That's okay? Right. Watch this.
Matthew chapter 15 and verse 24. Read. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Could you read that again? I want to break it down. I want to make sure my brother's with me on this. Watch this.
But he answered and said.
So the background story in Matthew 15, all right, it was an Idumean woman who came unto Christ. And she asked Christ to heal her. And this is his response. He said, read it again. But he answered and said, I am not sent. He says, I'm only sent, read. But unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And that's the misconception in the world today. Everybody believes that Christ was sent for everybody, but he was only sent for the Israelites. That's right. That's the thing right there. Now, 1 Corinthians 3 and 11, then I want to deal with manhood, 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 2. I'll make this very quick for you, brother. Watch this.
1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 11.
So now understanding that Christ was only sent for one nation of people, and that's the Israelites, we have to understand this right here. 1 Corinthians 3 and 11. Watch this.
1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 11.
Read.
For other foundation can no man lay.
What?
Can no man lay.
So it says, for other foundations, it says, can no man lay. Except, read.
That is laid, which is Jesus Christ.
Read it again from the top.
For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ.
Meaning what? There's no other foundation that we can build upon unless it's Jesus Christ. Meaning what? The white man, he builds his foundation off of murder, off of theft, off of witchcraft. The Chinese man, he builds his foundation off of stealing cultures, off of idolatry. But the Israelite man, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, we can only build our foundation off of Jesus the Christ. That's right. That's where our order, that's where our discipline comes from. Now, 1 Kings 2 and 2. Watch this, my brother.
1 Kings chapter 2 and verse 2.
Read.
I go the way of all the earth.
So this is a conversation between King David and King Solomon. You've heard of King David. I know you heard of King David with Goliath, right? This is what he's telling his son, King Solomon. Read this again.
I go the way of all the earth.
Watch this.
Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man.
So now he's going to tell his son, King Solomon, how to be a man. All right, watch this.
And keep the charge of the Lord thy God.
Read.
To walk in his ways.
To walk in all of God's ways. Read.
To keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses.
So when it comes to manhood, all right, when it comes to manhood, it all relates back to keeping God's commandments. That's right. Meaning what? Your path to manhood, our path to manhood is not the same as the East Indian. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same as the Nilotic African. It's not the same as the Caucasian. Our road to manhood and godhood is keeping God's commandments. That's right. And that's how we unify together. Now, when you talked about other opportunities in schools and different things like that, we've spoken at the college level, we've spoken in the high school level, spoken overseas. We've had those opportunities. Hey, if there's an opportunity, we'll be there. But the first thing we teach our people their nationality. That's right. Because that's our power. Genesis 32 and 8. I'll leave you with this. Our nationality means everything. Think about it, bro.
our nationality has changed like every 20 years, right?
Right.
African American, Negro, there you go. And it just means black. But like the officer said earlier, we've done a lot of those things, right? And I got one more after this. We've done a lot of those things. But at the end result, what change has come forth off of doing those things under the clause under African American, under a black Muslim. You understand? Nothing's come out of that because it's not the true source. Now I'm going to show you what it means to be an Israelite, because being black don't mean nothing. Being African American don't mean nothing. But being an Israelite, this is what it means right here. Watch this.
The book of Genesis, chapter 32 and verse 28.
Watch this, my brother.
And he said, thy name shall be no more Jacob, but Israel.
But what?
But Israel.
Now it's going to tell us what Israel means.
For as a prince hast thou power with God.
For what?
For as a prince hast thou power with God.
We the princes, we the kings on the earth.
Right.
But check it out. The reason why we haven't tapped into that power ultimately, why you think? Because we transgress God's commandments.
That's right.
Now, last scripture to tie it in with what we had, Black Panthers.
We transgress our commandments. We live in a society and a system that forcibly makes us do it. That might be the whole plan anyway, because they know that we have to follow our commandments and be a certain way.
Judith 5 and 20.
So they go,
You know?
You just spoke scripture. No, you with me. You with me, bro. What's your name, bro?
I'm Jalil Malik.
Jalil Malik. All right, my name Mattathias, all right? So what you just said was actually scripture. I agree with you 100%, bro. Watch this.
The book of Judith, chapter 5 and verse 20. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error in this people.
This people is talking about us, Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, the Israelites. It says if there's any error in us, meaning sin in us, watch this.
And they sin against their God.
Because even the other nations, they understand that, guess what? The Most High God that created the heaven and earth, he's our God. He's not their God, but our God. Read that part again.
Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error in this people,
Watch this.
and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin.
It should be our what?
Ruin.
Meaning what? That's why we on the bottom. Because we sinned against our God. So check it out. Why you, just like you said, everything is designed for us to continue to sin.
Right.
For us to continue to sell dope to one another. The hip hop music is having us whore out our sisters and promoting violence against our own brothers.
Right.
All of that's by design to keep us in sin. So 1 Corinthians 4:9, then I got a question for you. Because 1 Corinthians 4:9 is going to show you all of the movements that came before this. All right, and mind you, in history, we didn't need to come out and teach our people who they are. Because in history, we already knew who he was.
Right.
During the time of Christ, all people knew who they were. They knew they was Israel. But over time, what happened? We forgot our roots. We started calling ourselves Jamaican, American, African American. That's what happened over time. But I want to show you something, my brother. Watch this.
1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 9.
Now watch this.
For I think that God has set forth the
I
apostles.
want you to calm down, and I want you to read this clear, because I want my brother to understand it. Watch this.
For I think that God has set forth the apostles last.
The last, meaning what? You see us gaining steam now, meaning what? The Israelites. The Israelites is becoming a household name. A few years ago, nobody knew who the so-called black Israelites were. We're not black Israelites. We are the Israelites according to the Bible. You understand? So now you see the Israelites actually, hey, you an Israelite? Have you heard of the Israelites? People are saying yes now. Why? Because it's according to prophecy. That's what I'm trying to show you. Yes, it's time. Now read this again.
For I think that God has set forth us, the apostles last.
Read.
As it were appointed to death.
As it were appointed to death. Meaning what? It was ordained of God. You had the Black Panthers. You understand? You had the Black Muslims. You understand? You had all of these different organizations and groups. All of that came to naught because guess what? The foundation was not set up on Christ.
Right.
But guess what? With this one right here, you can't destroy this. Nah, Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi. That's what Martin Luther King was based off of.
What? Non-violent.
Yeah. That's if you I'm pretty sure you know about it, but if you really look into it, it had nothing to do with the Bible. It was all of Gandhi's principles, and that's why he failed. But check it out. Remember his last speech before they murdered him. Martin Luther King's eyes were open. And remember what he said? He felt like he integrated his people into a burning house. And then a few days later in Memphis, Tennessee, what they do? They gunned him down.
That's right.
That's what they did, because he started to wake up and realize he was leading us to join hands with the devil on earth.
Right.
Bring it out. You have the same equal stuff, which is separate. Like, you have a black and white water fountain, a black and white water fountain is the same. You don't need a, you know what I'm saying, a water fountain where you can all share, a school you can all share, because integration will make people again necessary. Again necessary, because you got people thinking they're exception and want to slip through the cracks. And so the ones that slip through the cracks, black people who are in the middle class, upper middle class, they don't think that there is a problem out there. You know what I'm saying? They don't think that, you know what I'm saying, black people have that. That's exactly what really was said. You know what I'm saying? That niggas just lazy. You know what I'm saying? That, you know what I'm saying? That there are opportunities out here that just don't get it. You know what I mean? So
There's something you just said that I want to tie into really quick, because you talked about Martin obviously wanted something better for us. There's no doubt about that. So I can't fault him. He was doing what he knew to do at that time. You understand? Now the thing about it, and you can do your research, you look like an intelligent brother that will do the research. So for example, you've heard of American citizen before, right? A citizen is someone that has access and equal rights within that country or that nation. Blacks in America, Puerto Ricans, Hispanics in America, we are not American citizens. By definition, pull this up for me. By definition, we are denizens. Do you know what a denizen is?
like a citizen, so that's you.
Right, that they allow you to be there. Exactly, that's what we are. Exactly. They allow us to be here for this time being. Now give me Micah chapter 2 verse 10. You're going to read the definition and then give me Micah chapter 2 verse 10. And that's why we can't get comfortable here. We can't, our ambition shouldn't be trying to be equal. God made us above all nations.
That's right.
Not to be equal. Watch this.
This is denizen, inhabitant or occupant of a particular place.
Read.
A foreigner allowed certain rights in the adopted country.
There you go. A foreigner allowed certain rights. We are in a strange land. This is the land of our captivity. Right. So read this, Micah chapter 2 verse 10. This is why, guess what, like you asked about the order and the structure and the manhood. We got to teach each other who we are first. And it's not for everybody. And I agree with you. No, I'm talking about our people. All of our people won't make it this time because of what you just said. Because they don't want to know better. You feel what I'm saying? It's just like that slave mentality. You had Nat Turner who trying to lead a rebellion against the known enemy, obviously, right? But you still had slaves that wanted to stay on the plantation.
Like dudes like Nat Turner, you feel me? Like you would say, if you really tell the story of Nat Turner, you would say he wrong. He killed white kids. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't care. He was trying to
free his people.
All the way down to the dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And people see that as violent. Some people see that as necessary. Some people see that as like truly the way. And I just feel like, I don't know, man. I feel like people nowadays ready to march and not really ready to strap up. And
so check this out. You saying a lot of good stuff, and we got scriptures for all of it. So I'm gonna say it real fast. Watch this. Watch this. Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. Now you said freedom can't be martial. I'm gonna show you something in the scriptures real quick. Watch this. Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. And this scripture right here is handling what we were just talking about. We can't fight for equal status. God is saying we only here for a dispensation of time. This place is temporary. Read what you got. Micah chapter 2 verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Meaning what? America, this is not our rest. God said arise and depart. Now you said we can't march our way to freedom. Now check this out. It's not about marching in the sense of the civil rights movement. It's not about that. Give me the book of Psalms chapter 50 and verse 21. Watch this. Psalms chapter 50, verse 21. I want you to pay close attention to this.
Psalms chapter 50 and verse 21. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence.
Meaning what? Slavery. Slavery. The so-called white man has oppressed the black man for over 400 years.
Right.
And they think because God has not sent judgment on the earth yet, they think that God is in agreement with that thing. Read it again.
These things hast thou done, and I kept silence.
God said he kept the silence. I saw what you're doing to my people. Read.
Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself.
Meaning what? They thought that God was with them so much that they changed the image of Christ to a white man.
Right.
You understand? According to Revelation 1 and 14, Christ is black like you and me, with woolly hair. Read.
But I will reprove thee.
But God said, just wait. You are going to get reproved for what you've done to my people. Watch this.
And set them in order.
And do what?
And set them in order.
God's going to set the blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans back in order. Read.
Before thine eyes.
Before the whole world. Ezekiel 37 and 10. In regards to the marches and the show of force. Meaning what? We are not coming out there strapped up. Our weapons are not carnal.
Right.
Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. You know what we got to do? We got to be willing to lay down our lives for Christ. Because guess what? Ain't that what he did for us?
Right.
And not the whole world. No, for you and me, bro.
That's right.
Christ literally died for you and me, the Israelites, so we can have life. Now check this out, bro. I know a lot of people say, I ain't really. Hey, everybody's gonna die. Now check this out. If you are a follower of Martin, this is what he also said. He said you can't control when you die, you can't control how you die, but you can control what you die for. And you see these men over here, we are willing to put our lives on the line for Jesus the Christ, the black Messiah.
That's right.
Because he came and died for us.
Right.
Now check this out.
Ezekiel chapter 37 verse 10.
Read.
So I prophesied as he commanded me.
Read.
And the breath came into them.
That's the law, statutes, commandments coming into us, the Israelites, bro. Read.
And they lived.
And we did what?
And they lived.
Read on.
And stood upon their feet.
Remember, God said he's going to set us in order before the nation's eyes. Now check this out.
An exceeding great army.
Hey, what?
An exceeding great army.
Meaning what? We ain't coming for carnal violence, but we are ready for war, spiritual war.
Right.
We are out here casting down the imaginations. We are casting down the fact that there's a bunch of white people saying that they're the real Jews.
Get out.
You understand?
Right.
According to the Bible, we are the real Jews.
That's right.
They're the synagogue of Satan.
Right.
Now, when we say these things, bro, when we line up in March, this is what happens to them. Revelations 11 and 10. Now, check this out. Go ahead. All right, watch this. This is that empowerment right here that we need to hear. This is what we should be sharing with our people. Read what you got.
Revelations chapter 11 verse 10.
Watch this.
And they that dwell upon the earth,
Meaning what? The nations that enslaved us, read,
shall rejoice over them.
they rejoiced over us when? When they put us in slavery. When they had dominion over us. Read.
And make merry, and shall send gifts one to another.
Meaning what? They would give different gifts to the countries and amongst themselves celebrating our destruction. Read.
Because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth.
Meaning what? In history, Israel and Judah, we tormented them. King David was giving them hell. King Solomon was giving them hell. That's our forefathers right there.
Right.
And it said we used to torment the nations, but check it out. Read.
And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them.
Meaning what? After we've been destroyed, after we call ourselves African Americans, bro, God said there's going to come a time, and that time is right now, that the spirit of life will enter back into us.
That's right. And they stood upon their feet.
Watch this.
And great fear fell upon them.
Great fear fell upon who?
And great fear fell upon them.
When you know who you truly are, that's when the nations begin to fear you. And
Right.
guess what? These nations, they about to wage war on the true Israelites.
Right.
Because guess what? Once we say that we the Israelites, that means that the fake Jews over there cannot be the children of God.
Right.
Now, last scripture, Revelations 2 verse 9. You need to hear this. You probably didn't know this was in the Bible. Watch this, bro.
The book of Revelations chapter 2 verse 9.
Watch this, bro.
I know thy works and tribulations and poverty.
And our poverty. Who else is that talking about? That ain't talking about the fake Jews, because the last time I checked, they run the world.
Right.
They run the media. They run Hollywood. They run everything. So they ain't impoverished at all. Read.
But thou art rich.
But God say we still rich. You know why? Because Christ only came for us.
That's right.
Read.
And I know the blasphemy.
And what?
And I know the blasphemy
Read.
of them which say they are Jews.
God left in his scriptures that he knows those who are blaspheming his name. Yeah, he knows that they would do that. That's why he left it here in the last book of the Bible. He says, don't worry about it. I know they calling themselves Jewish people. I'm aware of that. Because God already knows everything from the beginning to the end.
Right.
Read.
And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews.
Read.
And are not.
And what?
And are not.
This is what God calls them.
But are the synagogue of Satan.
You see that? They are the devil.
Right,
The white
that's
man
right.
is the devil.
Right.
We don't make this stuff up. It's in the Bible. Now check
Right.
this out. They say that we teach hate speech. Didn't I just read the Bible for the last 10 minutes? All of that's in the Bible. Now check this out. It goes back to your original question. How we teach manhood, how we teach to empower our brothers. It starts with knowing who you are.
That's right.
The next step is what? Teaching God's commandments.
Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV. Download the app today. Shalom.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.